Have you ever seen a lake or a pond so sick that it was actually dangerous to even stand near it? Well, today we're diving into a story about just that, a total ecological collapse, and the remarkable, almost invisible technology that managed to bring a lake right back from the brink. Okay, let's get into it. So our story starts with a very real environmental emergency. We're looking at a small inlet that's connected to a much larger lake in Minnesota. And, back in the fall of 2024, things got bad. I mean, really, really bad. Just take a look at this. This isn't just a little bit of algae we're talking about. This is a full-blown crisis. The water is totally opaque, it's covered in this thick scum, and it's completely unusable for the people who live there. It looks sick because, well, it is. And it wasn't just ugly to look at. This quote from the case study, wow, it tells you everything you need to know. The air itself was toxic. The conditions were so bad that just being near the water caused people's eyes and throats to burn. So this wasn't just an environmental problem anymore, it was a serious public health hazard. Yeah, the official reports described it in pretty vivid detail. Thick, pea-green scum, and this powerful, disgusting smell of hydrogen sulfide. That classic rotten egg smell. The entire ecosystem was just completely and dangerously out of balance. So how in the world do you fix a problem this big? I mean, you could just dump a bunch of chemicals in, right? But that usually just creates a whole new set of problems down the line. The solution here was something way more elegant and honestly just fascinating. So let's meet the hero of our story, nanobubbles. Okay, so what exactly is a nanobubble? Well, it's a gas bubble, in this case, usually oxygen, that is just unbelievably tiny. To give you some perspective, a single nanobubble is about 2,500 times smaller than 1 grain of table salt. They are completely invisible to the naked eye. This slide is perfect because it shows you the huge difference between regular old aeration and this nanobubble tech. On the left, that's what we're all used to seeing. Big bubbles that just shoot up to the surface and pop. But on the right, that's something else entirely. Those nanobubbles are so small they just hang there, suspended throughout all of the water. And this right here is the key. Those bigger bubbles are super inefficient. Most of their oxygen just gets wasted as soon as they burst at the surface. But nanobubbles, they're what's called neutrally buoyant. They don't just rise and escape, they stay put, moving all through the water, basically creating this huge, stable reservoir of oxygen that's available everywhere. Okay, so they're tiny and they stick around for a long time. But how does that actually clean up a toxic lake? Let's get into the science of it and see how this actually helps build a healthier ecosystem from the ground up. This one diagram really tells the entire story. On the left, you've got that sick lake we started with, muck at the bottom, releasing nutrients, which fuels those massive algae blooms, which leads to low oxygen and fish kills. But look at the right. With nanobubbles, the whole system gets a reboot. Oxygen levels are high, fish are healthy, the water is clearer, and that bottom muck turns into firm sediment. The whole restoration process really boils down to two main functions. You could even call them superpowers. The first one is that super efficient oxygenation we talked about, and the second is a really cool process of natural oxidation. First up, that insane efficiency. Get this. This technology has an independently validated oxygen transfer efficiency of over 85%. That's just phenomenal. It means pretty much all the oxygen being pumped in actually gets into the water and stays there, raising the dissolved oxygen levels that are absolutely critical for healthy aquatic life. Now, the second superpower is even more amazing. When these nanobubbles eventually do collapse, they don't just disappear. They release this little burst of energy that creates something called hydroxyl radicals. These are really powerful, naturally occurring oxidants. They basically act like a microscopic cleaning crew, breaking down contaminants and killing off pathogens, all without needing any harsh synthetic chemicals. It's a natural, self-cleaning process. So that's the theory, that's the science, but did it actually work back in that Minnesota lake? Let's jump back to our case study and see what happened when they put this tech into action. All right, here's the timeline. September 2024, that was rock bottom, what we saw in those first pictures. Then, in the spring of 2025, a nanobubble generator was installed on the shore, and then they waited. The big check-in came just 1 year after the peak of the problem, in September 2025. And here it is, the payoff. I mean, the transformation is just stunning. On the left, you've got that pea-green, scummy water from 2024, and on the right, Just 1 year later, the water is dramatically clearer. No scum, no foul look. The difference is literally night and day. And this wasn't just a lucky photo op. The data from the resident logs backs it up completely. That frequent, nasty odor? Gone. Those regular mats of surface scum? Pretty much absent. Water clarity went from totally opaque to being able to actually see things along the shoreline. The bottom line is, every single key indicator showed a massive improvement. And really, this is what it's all about. The change wasn't just in a lab report, it had a real human impact. The lake was given back to the community, people could finally get back out on the water safely and enjoy this beautiful natural resource again. This one case study is incredible, but it really points to a much bigger idea. So let's zoom out for a second and look at why this technology represents a much more sustainable way of taking care of our water. So why is this approach so promising? Well, because it's both proactive and restorative. It doesn't just treat the symptoms, like an algae bloom. It goes after the root cause, which is low oxygen. This means you need fewer chemical treatments, it's easy to install without a huge disruption, and most importantly, it fundamentally promotes a healthy, balanced ecosystem. This management pyramid is a great way to visualize the modern approach. At the very top, you see that small, least sustainable tier. That's for reactive treatments, like herbicides that you use after a problem has already exploded. But nanobubbles, they sit down in that big, proactive tier. The whole goal of modern water management is to use these more sustainable, proactive tools first to stop problems before they can even start. And it's really important to see this technology as a foundational tool, not some magic bullet that replaces everything else. Nanobubble technology works with other tools. It can actually make chemical treatments more effective, it can support the good bacteria used in bioaugmentation, and it complements traditional aeration. It's all about having the right tool at the right time for the right job. So, we've just seen how this incredible technology turned a toxic, dangerous inlet into a clear, healthy body of water in just 1 year. It really makes you wonder, right? If a bubble 2,500 times smaller than a grain of salt holds this much power, what other massive challenges are out there just waiting for a tiny solution?